Hey there. So we are going to start. Previously, I have showed you how to. I have showed you how to. I have showed you how to easily install the basics of the Angular. Use ChatGPT. I'll also give you guys some tips on how to look for information on YouTube, on Google, or search on Google. But anyway, as I said, it's not that hard, so you don't have to be worried. So basically, I have the starting point that I have a basic Angular app, which is not, everything is automatic. You don't have to worry. Angular is going to do everything for you. And I have as well here the code already built because I don't want to run the risk to waste your time fixing bugs. One tip that I'm going to give about the programming is that even though when you do a course, everything runs smoothly, on a real code life, that's not true. I mean, I myself, I have to test things several times, and I'm going to follow this course more or less the same way I code. So I'm not going here to make you feel like code is magic, code is very easy. It's very fun, but you have to be aware that it's not that trivial. I mean, you have to be open to fix code, have to be open to make mistakes. And sometimes I think the biggest secret, at least for me, about coding is that you should have techniques. You should have a way to solve bugs, because I mean, unless you are running the code of somebody else, you are not creating your own code, which I totally encourage you to create your own code. I totally encourage you to consider every time you learn something new, I totally recommend you to change the code so you can have a kind of your own perspective on the code. So that's my tip. So whenever you make whenever you learn a new concept, try to change it. It does have to be very complex. It does have to be very complicated. Just make a very small change on the code. I think that will be enough for you to remember. Of course, when you are on your own, things is going to be tough because you think that you understood something. You think that you know. But the only time that you truly learn is when you make mistakes. So mistake is part of code. So my tip is like that. Do not be afraid to make mistake. Yeah. Whenever you learn a new concept, especially on this course or any course you are following, trying to implement it, trying to make a small modification, try to make, for example, create an idea. I mean, you have learned how to make image classification of snakes, which are a project that I have. Try to make a classification of frogs. Try to make the classification of spiders. So sometimes the modification will be very small. You are just changing the image, but it's still this experience of creating something on your own, or of making your own code based on somebody else is very important. So again, on this course, I'm going to follow more or less the same way that I code. So that's my tip for you. A second tip that I want to give you is that don't be proud. Don't be ashamed to use the code of somebody else. Most of the time, what I do is that I have an idea how to code. I have a thought how to create a project, a program. So most of the time, I'm going to look for code of somebody else. Could be Stack Overflow. What I like to do the most, but I understand because I have a PhD, so I'm used to learn. I'm used to make research. I'm used to look for information. I don't know that's the reason, but I love a lot. I love a lot to learn. Like when I was working with TensorFlow.js before creating this course and all the other courses that I have about TensorFlow.js, I have taken books to learn. Like to learn without any expectation, to learn just to learn. I mean, I'm not expect to create this, I'm not expect to create that. But on the other hand, that's the second way. So the first way of learning code is that you just go there and learn. Like take a book, a course. You are not concerned about Whether you are going to apply it, whether you are going to use somewhere, you just learn. That strategy of learn is very nice because you can actually, I do it a lot when you are doing your own project, your own idea, you can remember. I saw there is a code that does that, so you can make very small modifications on the code. You can use essentially all the code that someone provided. Then you can just use this small code to use your own idea. You have this snippet of code, a piece of code, and then you just use it in your own idea. Then you try to make the modification. So in the aftermath, maybe the code will change a lot, maybe the code will not change a lot, but it doesn't matter. So that's one strategy. Just learn without any special, without be concerned about how you're going to apply it, because you are interested in the topic. But then when you have your own idea, just go there and start to look for in your mind if you have a code that does similar stuff. That's how I code. The second way of coding is that you have a project, which was my postdoc fellowship. I had a project. It was different. Why that's different? Because when you have a project, you know where you want to go. So that part's a little bit harder because sometimes you have deadlines and so on. Then you have to go to YouTube. I have done that a lot. So you don't have too much time to learn because you need to deliver it. You have time. So the second way is harder. So I totally encourage not to use that much. But you may have as well your own project that you have an idea. You want to implement this idea. That again, you need to learn the tools. So my tip is that for the second part, that you have a project, you have something that you have to build, you don't get too attached to understand what's going on. You have to understand the basics. I'm saying that because what I'm going to teach you now may be a little bit harder for you. I don't know if you are starting to Sofra.js, you will start Angular, but don't worry. I mean, that's my tip. Don't worry about if you do not understand. The most important thing about learn how to code, especially nowadays, which you have a huge amount of example online on books, is that you have to understand the logic. You have to understand what your code is doing. So you can copy and paste huge blocks of code. That's what I'm going to do, because I saw on YouTube when I was learning people like typing the codes. I think that's not very realistic, because I myself don't type codes. I mean, I create huge projects. I have done a postdoc fellowship. I don't type codes. I mean, I just copy and paste and modify, copy and paste and modify. I think that's the best way for you to make your project, because it will be very fast. So my tip is, do not be proud. So if you have the code of somebody else that's working, I'm saying this about be proud, because I am like a very proud person. That was very hard for me to be able to use the code of somebody else. But once I was able to overcome this feeling that I had about being proud, I was able to achieve a lot. I was able to achieve a huge amount of possibilities. So I totally encourage you to not to be proud. So that's my tip. So my tip is, do not be proud. Just take the code of somebody else. The code that I'm using here, you can use it. It's MIT license. I'm going to deliver it MIT license. So if there's anything that here that's used for you in your project, you can use. Just make the citation of the code, the original author, which MIT is the broadest, is the most open license. So that's my tip. So I have given you some of my experience, but I'm going as well to give them as well during the course. I love a lot to share my own experience. So during the course, I'm going as well to give you some kind of tips how to code.